St. Thomas More Society and St. Helena's Church like to begin things with a prayer. That prayer text, God be in my head, is ancient. It's one of the oldest of all English language prayers. It's from the Sarum printer. Now, you should have lyric sheets, and it's listed there, Sarum printer. I could talk about it for 10 minutes, but I won't. But you should look it up on Google and read about it. It's fascinating. Just don't do it now. And it's been set to music over the many centuries, 8 centuries, dates to about the 1200s, but rarely more elegantly than the version you just heard, which is by our guest, Stopford. My name is Dick Kirk. I'm a member of the St. Thomas More Society Executive Committee, and I really brought this idea to the committee a year ago, and asked them if they would support this kind of musical venture, and they did, and I've been delighted. I'm also a member of the St. Helena's Choir, and so I have two hooks here. You'll find out I have a third as well. I'll be very brief, because I know you're here to hear Philip and Philip's music. St. Thomas More Society is a group of lawyers and judges, mainly Catholics, but also of other faiths, who adhere to the example of St. Thomas More for his devotion to public service, his dedication to legal and moral principles, and his steadfast conscience. We formed in this society, in this diocese in 1988. You can Google us. St. Thomas More Society of Delaware will get you to that place. Just don't do that. It will tell you a little bit about our history and about some of our regular activities through the year. One of them is a lecture series. We decided early on that we would sponsor a lecture series, 2 lectures a year. Today's concert or workshop or lecture marks the end of 30 years of lectures that we have brought to this community, raising the level of intellectual thought, cultural thought, historic thought for 30 years, and we're very proud of that project. This marks the first musical venture, and I'm very proud we've done that. So you can look at our website and find out why this is named for the fourth Bishop of Wilmington, Archbishop Edmund Fitzmaurice. The general topic of the program today is song as prayer. So I've been a fan of Philip Stopford's music. My friends in St. Helena's choir would say that I've been obsessed with Philip Stopford's music for more than a dozen years. So he was a natural choice for us to come and share his music and talk about song as prayer. And I think you'll see and hear why we think he's a perfect choice for this event. You can learn more about him on his own webpage, philipstopford.com. And he also has a YouTube channel where you can watch and hear his music, most of it conducted by Philip. Just don't do it now. So I know you're here to hear him. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Philip W.J. Stopford. Philip? We'll free you up to walk if you'd like. He has a handheld mic, and I hope as the choirs come up and demonstrate his music that he will take that opportunity. So my goal is to simply get us to the appointed stations on time, because we need to end. And I'm hoping that Philip will begin and we'll talk, and all I have to do is just okay. All right. Thank you, John. Choir director. So my job will be to, have you missed all of that so far? No. I won't repeat. To keep us moving. Now, Philip, you've got a wonderful biography. I know you've shared it on your website, and perhaps you have also said it last night at a program. Could you let us know how you got to here? How did you come to be a choral music composer?
So well, first of all, thank you very much for having me, and it's wonderful to be here with all of these with all of you, and I can't wait to hear the music. I mean, I know it already, but I'm looking forward to hearing your performances of it, and and working on those briefly, and talking a little bit about how the pieces came about. But to answer your question, I sang in my local parish church choir when I was about age 6. And somebody said, oh, maybe he's got a bit of talent there. Why don't you take him for an audition to be a chorister at Westminster Abbey? No one told me that. I thought I was going to London Zoo for the day. But my mother took me to sing to this choir man in London, in Westminster Abbey. And then 6 months later, I started at my school. And people say, what was it like being a chorister at Westminster Abbey? And the answer is, it was my normal. I don't know what being at any other school was like, because I wasn't at those schools. So it was very normal to me. It was slightly unusual that every 15 minutes we heard Big Ben all day and all night. That was a bit strange. But ding dong, Big Ben. You know what Big Ben is, don't you? Yeah. By the Houses of Parliament, yes. And we had a sort of slightly strange existence at Westminster Abbey. Everything to do with Westminster Abbey and the choir school focused on the music and the liturgy of Westminster Abbey. And Princess Diana would turn up one Saturday, and the Queen would walk through the middle of the choir stalls, and you're thinking, she is small. She is small. But she's the Queen, and keep singing. And we did. It was just an amazing opportunity and an amazing experience. So I was very lucky. I completely grew up in the Anglican music tradition, church, and everything to do with some great, being on time and being sort of disciplined. And I think this is what one of the wonderful things about choirs for both adults and for children. It really teaches you a sense of being ready to perform and on time and have your music, and there's some great elements of discipline, and that's before you've even started singing. So It really is. I think you're all doing a wonderful, wonderful thing. Then I went on to, I'll be quick.
Well, were your parents musical?
My father was musical. He taught me the piano initially. You know, I sort of went up to the piano and played a few notes here and there, aged 4 or 5 maybe, and then and got into the piano. But I even hit that barrier of, oh, I really can't do this anymore. You know, my parents were, yes, you can. They encouraged me. You know, I remember struggling. I had to play triplets in one hand and duplets in the other, and it just the very first time I had to do that, and I just thought, what? How does that work? But eventually, you know, it sort of came together.
Wonderful. Now, of course, you moved on. You had further schooling.
I did. I then went to Bedford School on a music scholarship. That was my sort of senior school. And then I went for a year to be organ scholar at Truro Cathedral, down in Cornwall, if you've been to Cornwall in the United Kingdom. Lovely. And then I went to Oxford, studied music, we call it red music, but studied music at Oxford University at Keble College. And we'll hear the Keble Missa Brothers later on, which I wrote there when I was 20. Sounds like I was 20. It does. And then I went to Canterbury Cathedral to be organ scholar there for a year, which is the mother church of the Anglican Communion, so that was an amazing experience. I was there for the millennium, actually. That was the year I was there. And then I went to Chester Cathedral, up in the northwest, sort of near Liverpool and Manchester, Chester Cathedral, and was assistant organist there. And then I moved to Northern Ireland to be director of music at St Anne's Cathedral in Belfast. I'm a big fan of Belfast. If you haven't been, please don't just go to Dublin. It's not as good as Belfast. Honestly, I should work for the tourist board. Belfast is a great place to visit. The cathedral is beautiful, and also the Titanic was built in Belfast. There's a £90 million museum. Brilliant, brilliant museum, all about the Titanic. And they say, the people of Belfast say, it was fine when it left here.
Then you had a period of freelancing, as I
did 5 years. I did 5 years after my job in Belfast. And then I had visited, I'm currently director of music at Christchurch, Bronxville, just outside of New York. So it was easy to drive. People always ask me, did you fly over? And I go, no, I live here now. So it's lovely to be part of the working sort of musicians of this country. And I work at Christchurch, Bronxville. I had done a couple of workshops there previously in my freelance period, and then the director of music went on to another job, and they said, would you like to come and live in New York for 4 months? I thought, well, yeah, sure, why not? Sounds good. And then they said, would you like to stay, forever? Well, not forever. But, so I'm there, and I don't know what I'm going to do next. I'm open to offers.
You're a prolific writer. You compose an awful lot. Can you talk a little bit about the process for you? I mean, I know from our conversation, I had imagined starting a conversation asking which comes first, the chicken or the egg, what comes first, the text or the music, and Philip straightened me out and said, it's always the text. So maybe you could talk about the process of taking text and making it a song.
Yeah, so initially I wrote music for fun. I was directing a choir at Keble College, and I'd been involved in singing all my life, really, from the age of 8 years old, or just before that, really. So I thought to myself, well, do you know what? Maybe I could have a go at this, The composers that have already written music, they don't own the notes. We all own the notes. We can, people actually say to me, what do you want for Christmas? Sometimes I say 5 new notes. That would be imagine that would open up a whole new world. It would open up a whole new world. It'd be great. But anyway, they're there for us to enjoy. They're there for us to write music, and I wrote music for fun initially, and then we made a CD, my very first CD of all my music, and then people said, well, can I get a copy of that? And then, oh, how do I do that? And then, oh, I need to get it published. And then, oh, would you make another CD? And then one thing leads to the next and the next. And then the commissions start to come in. But the process, for me, it's all about the text. It has to be about the text. I've never written a piano concerto, I've never written a symphony, I just wouldn't know where to begin. I admire those people that can just write music from literally nothing. At least for us choral composers, we have something to begin with. We have a text to begin with. I think this choir of it, you're doing Luli Lula Lule. I wrote that in 3 hours. Yeah. I've no idea. I mean, we'll talk about that later. But I didn't know where it came from. It almost seemed to drop from the sky, just as a piece from somewhere. A really good 3 hours work, really.
It's been very successful for you.
That's not quite that, yes. You had Voces 8, didn't you, here recently?
Right.
Yes. They did their Christmas video for last year was Lulu Lula Lule, and that's been very helpful. And other pieces, I'll put the text on the piano. I'll go back and forth to and from it for a number of weeks. Come up with little ideas, and then slowly but surely the melody comes. The way the text is going to be divided up. I'm someone, when somebody commissions me, I want them to tell me exactly what they want. I find that helpful, because then they're more likely to like what they've commissioned. So in Oh How Glorious, for example, we'll talk about that later, but there were various things that were required of the composition, and I like that. Some composers are completely different, they like a completely free range, but I think the danger with that is that you can miss sort of what the customer, sort of is looking for, really. So some of the pieces are influenced definitely by the person that commissions it, usually in a good way. But normally, and then I after I've looked at it on the piano, the text on the piano, and gone back and forth, I then have a process of manuscript. Then I transfer the manuscript to Finale. I work in Finale, and then I would print out the piece. Then I would take it back to the piano, and I would check various things. Go back to the computer. So it's a bit of a back and forth, and I might even do a page at a time as well. I'm not one of these people that has the whole piece ready. Sometimes I'll just write the first page, and then I'll worry about the second page when I finish the first. But it seems to work out.
At any given time, how many pieces do you have going at once? Is it hard to keep them in mind?
I can only do one at a time. Really. I think I'm a start, finish, on to the next person, generally. Yeah.
You talked about nobody owning the notes, and so sometimes you are treading in well-worn paths. So
yes.
there are people who have preceded you. Is that imposing? Is it sometimes a daunting task to write where either some people from centuries ago or even some of the modern masters have also written?
Imagine someone coming to you and saying, could you write a new text for the Lord's Prayer? Well, I could. Whether that would be clever or sensible or effective. So I do get a bit nervous. One of the ones that I was very nervous about was the Spirit of the Law, because Elgar's done it quite well. So you do think to yourself, do I really want to take that on? The other option, of course, is that when you get the same text, when you're asked to set music to a text that's already been set beautifully, you can take a different combination of voices and instruments, or voices and organs. So if there's another one that comes to mind is the very, very beautiful Bring Us, O Lord God by William Harris. I was asked to do a setting of, and that's double choir, unaccompanied, and I was asked to do Bring Us, O Lord God. So I did 4 parts with organ. So it's a very different type of piece. But I was saying last night, I think if you think of those texts, I sometimes think that we sing hymns in church and we just sing the tunes and we don't really think about what the words actually mean. And I think as a composer, that's the opportunity that you have, is to sit and look at this text and say to yourself, what can I say? What do I want to say about this text? and what can I see in it that maybe has not been seen by a different composer. So, for example, in the bleak midwinter, angels and archangels may have gathered there, cherubim and seraphim thronged the air. How big is a throng? Is it 2 angels? Is it 50 angels? Is it millions and millions of angels? For me, it was a lot of angels. So that gives an opportunity to use rhythm and texture and volume and dynamic and all those sorts of things to describe all of those angels. And then the next line is, but only his mother in her maiden bliss worshipped the beloved with a kiss. For me, that's only his mother. That's where the solo is. Not at the start, because in the text, the solo is but only his mother. So why not go with that? Why not actually break with that sort of tradition of making the first verse solo? It's not really the first verse that's the solo, it's actually in the middle of the piece. So that's what my version does. In the Bleak Midwinter, do have a look at that one. It doesn't sell, because everyone, you people, it's very difficult to get you people to do things that you don't normally do. We've heard the Holts. We know the Holts. We know the Harold Dark. Go for a different one. Go on, be brave.
I had secretly hoped that somebody would be able to do For the Beauty of the Earth, which was done memorably by many, including John Rutter, but I think your version is just fabulous. Nobody's doing it today, but do look at that on his webpage or the YouTube. It's a beautiful composition.
It's also on one of the CDs that I have bought.
Yes, Philip will have CDs. He has 2 CDs for sale in the back, and he said he would sign them. So if you want an opportunity for a signed CD, Philip will be in the back at the conclusion of the program. Now, we could, I'd love to go on, but we're facing the inexorable march of time. So what we need to do, I'll tell you, Center City Chorale, which is a community choir, will come up, and they're going to do O Thou Who Camest From Above, which is a Charles Wesley tune. And we might talk about dealing with the text. You know, it's one of his 6,500 texts, or prayer texts.
Took a long time to read them all and choose.
And also we're doing Jubilate. Now that's a psalm. So again, it's an area where many people have written, and it's Psalm 100, which is one that's been done many times. So you might, as we're coming up, as Center City comes up, you might talk about that, and maybe I'm going to move the chairs while you.
Just you mentioned it's been set many times. I do find it fascinating that Psalm 150 hasn't been set very much. If you think about it, oh praise God in His holiness, praise Him in the sound of the trumpet, praise Him upon the strings of pipe, all that sort of thing. But it hasn't been set very much. I'll leave that with you.
So we'll call up Center City, and you might, if you will, just mention a little bit about Oh Thou Who Camest From Above and Jubilate.
Just need to check. So, O Thou Who Camest From Above, I think it was composed for, in memory of John Frost. Yeah. So what happened, when I was in Belfast, I bought it, but I said to myself, I'm going to compose a Christmas piece every year. And I did that. But there was also a very lovely, charming couple. Interestingly, Michael and Barbara Calendar, the Gobby in My Head that you saw was actually written for their 25th wedding anniversary. But the people that I wrote that for were also very good at getting me to write things for other people. So and they were members of our parish at Belfast. So they would sidle up to me after a service, and Michael